Hi everyone, this is Michelle from MaMi's Country Quilts and welcome to my virtual classroom. Today we are doing a pattern called Winter, and again this pattern was designed and created by our Mika Martins. It's going to be the first in a collection of placemat / table runner patterns that we are doing in 2022. So with no further ado, we're going to continue with the pattern. So first, this pattern has two projects. So we have the table runner and the placemats. We're going to do this class in two videos. We're going to have one for the table runner and one for the placemat so we don't get everything confused. So before we jump into the pattern, I'm going to talk about a few supplies that you're going to need for both of these projects. So besides the regular sewing notions that you normally use, like rulers, cutters, pins, rippers, etc., you're going to need a few extra things. So first of all, you're going to need some steam and seam to do the fusing of your applique. Secondly, you're going to need a fine marker, preferably black, something that you can see well, to do the tracing onto the steam and seam. And you'll need a good little pair of scissors for cutting. We're going to be going around some points and stuff, so you want something that's fairly agile and easy to use. And lastly, you're going to need an array of thread for top stitching your applique pieces down. We typically match our thread to the pieces that we're stitching down, so in this case we're going to need some purples, some reds, some blacks, some whites, some oranges, so just a variety of different colors that you're going to need for this project. And also, before I leave this topic, for the stitching you should be using an applique foot, or also known as an open-toed foot, so you'll want to grab that, and I will talk about that when we start doing the stitching as well. So with that, we're going to start with the table runner. So the first thing we're going to do is grab, so if you have bought the kit from us, in your pattern you will have your background fabrics, which will be labeled blue 1 to 4, and then you'll have a variety of different fabrics, colored fabrics, to do the applique. And these will be labeled to correspond to our runner on the back cover of the pattern. So and we also have a chart within the pattern which we'll bring up in a bit when we start doing the applique. So with that, I'm just going to put these aside. Alright, so we're just going to take the two fabrics that we need for the background for our runner. So you're going to need your white piece and your blue that's labeled blue 2. So it's one of the medium blues. So we're going to take those two pieces out, and I'm just going to move these to the side. So the first thing we need to do is cut one 10.5 by 21 inch piece for the white. So we're just going to cut a strip. So you'll take your white, and I'm just going to quickly square this off. So once you've got your fabric squared off, we're going to measure over 10.5 inches, and this ruler is an 8.5. So that means I need to add 2 inches with my square. So I'm just going to add, turn it this way, so 2 inches. So I'm putting a 2-inch line from my square on the edge of my white, plus my 8.5, and then I'm just going to cut. So we'll keep these pieces for possible applique. Okay, now that we have our 10.5 inch strip, we're going to need a 21 inch piece. subcut from that strip, so we're going to flip this around this way, and I'm going to need my 2 rulers to cut that 21 inches. So we need 21 inches by 10 and a half. So I've got the 10 and a half. So I need 12 and a half inches off of my square, plus the 8 and a half on my long ruler is going to give me 21 inches. So you're just putting 12 and a half inches on the side, plus 8 and a half is going to give me 21. So I'm just going to cut that. So this piece is going to be put to the side for applique. And then I'm going to take my blue and I'm going to cut a 10 and a half inch strip as well. So this again, this is your blue 2. I'm going to make sure your fold is at the bottom. And again, I'm just going to square this off quickly. Again, when you're squaring off, you just want to take off just a little bit. Okay. So 10 and a half. So again, I need 2 off of my square. So you're putting a 2-inch line on the edge of your fabric that you just squared. Plus your 8 and a half is going to give you 10 and a half. So the rest of this is going to be put aside for the placemat part of the pattern. So we'll just put that to the side. And again, we're turning this and we're going to cut this one to 28 this time. So I'm just going to open this up. Actually, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to cut this part out too. Okay, so you're going to take your 10 and a half inch piece, and we need a 14-inch piece. So I'm just going to turn my piece, leave it folded, put the fold to the left-hand side, and we're going to cut 14 inches, which will give us 28 when we open it up. So I'm just going to take my 14-inch line and put it on the fold. And I'm just going to cut that like that, and I'll put that to the side. So we now have a 28-inch piece and a 21-inch piece, and we're just going to sew those together. So we're just going to put them right sides together and just do a 1/4 inch seam on that. Okay, so once you have that pressed, you're sewn, we're just going to press that. And we're going to press towards the your darkest fabric. while we've got the iron hot here, we'll just make sure that our piece is pressed all the way through. So you should have a piece that looks like that. So that's the background. So what we need now is the steam-a-seam, and in your pattern you're going to have some applique template sheets, and on those sheets you're going to see that everything is labeled either with a runner and a number, or placemat with a number, or with what it is. Like for example, if it's the mitts, it'll say mitts 5, mitts 6, which just tells you the number of the piece that you need. So for the table runner, then it's all labeled with runner. So we need to find the pieces that are labeled runner 1 to 21, and we're going to trace those onto our steam-a-seam. So the steam-a-seam has, when you unroll it, you're going to see a side has a grid side. So you can see that yellow grid on here. The other side is just blank. So you're going to want to draw or trace onto the side that has the grid. Okay, so I've started here. You can see that I've started tracing. So I've taken this is my B, my applique template sheet B that I've traced. I'm going to go to the A side now, and on the A side we have runner 5, runner 4, runner 19, runner 16, and runner 14. So I'm going to take those and I'm going to just trace them onto my steam-a-seam, and you can see that we have pieces overlaid onto others. It was just to conserve sheets, otherwise there would be so many sheets in the pattern. So you can't trace them like they are on the sheet. We're going to have to move them. So for example, if I take runner 4 piece, I'm just going to place it so that it's about ½ an inch away from my other piece, because we're going to be cutting a ¼ of an inch around these pieces that we've drawn. So I'm just going to bring this under my applique sheet, and I'm going to grab my marker, and I'm just going to trace. So you're just going to go all the way around. And once you're done tracing your piece, you're going to label it right away, just like it is on the applique template sheet. So this one is going to be runner 4. So I'm just going to write on here runner 4. So now you'll notice that runner 5 piece is on top of runner 4, so I can't trace it right here. I have to move my steam-a-seam over and trace my runner 5 underneath my runner 4 piece. So I'm just going to go like that, and I'm going to trace my runner 5 piece now. And you're creating a scene here, so my clouds and your clouds don't have to be exactly the same. It's an art piece, so you might not, it doesn't have to be traced exactly. If you want an extra bump, or if you want to eliminate a bump in the cloud, feel free to do that. It's an art piece, okay? It's just a really nice, fun way to quilt. So we're going to go ahead and do all of our pieces for the runner. So this is going to be runner 5. So I'm going to continue doing that and I'll be right back. Alright, I've traced all my pieces out, so you can see here. So now I'm going to cut them all out, and I'm going to start doing that. Just one little note when you're doing the runner, in the pattern you have a note telling you that piece 11 and 21 are exactly the same. So on your template sheet, let me just grab it here. So template sheet C, you have a piece that says runner 11 and 21. So that means you have to trace that one twice because you're going to need it 2 times. Okay, so one's going to be 11 and one's going to be 21. So just bring that to your attention. So I'm just going to make my sheet a little bit smaller here. Maybe easier to cut out. So I'm just going to cut that out. This we're going to put to the side for our placemats. And now I'm just going to cut around these. I'm going to grab my scissors. And you want to be cutting about 1/4 of an inch around your pieces so that when you're cutting them out of your fabric, it's just easier to cut out. So I'm just going to just start cutting. And you're going to be recutting this again, so this can just be like just quick cutting here. So you're just going to cut all your pieces out. I'm going to keep cutting and I'll be right back. Okay, I have all my pieces cut out. So you can see here that we've cut away from the line so that when we stick this onto the fabric, it's going to be easier to cut. So having said that, we're going to continue now with colors, with the color fabrics and our pieces. So in your pattern, you'll have a sheet called Applique Fabric Color Chart, and on here we have all the colors of fabrics that you need, or if you're using our kit, this is what will be in your kit. And beside each color, we have what that color is being used for. So what I'm going to do with you now is place my pieces onto the fabrics and show you how that looks. Also, another little note here, if you did purchase the kit from us, in your kit there will be a sheet like this, and this sheet basically shows you how we've placed our pieces onto the fabrics that are in your kit. So that's what we're going to do right now. Alright, so we're just doing the runner for the moment, so I'm just going to pull out my white piece that we have left from when we made our background. So you want to make sure that you have the wrong side up on your fabric, and we're going to place our white pieces on here. So if you go back again to your chart, it'll say white, snowflake 1, snowman 1, 2, 3, and runner 4, 5, and 6. So we're going to, right now we're just doing the runners, so we're going to need runner 4, 5, and 6, which are your clouds. So I'm just going to pull those ones. So these are the 3 pieces that are going on here. So you want to make sure that you have enough fabric for all of your pieces, and because we need this color for your placemats still, you don't want to just put these randomly anywhere on your fabric. You're going to try and put it so that you're conserving fabric so that you make sure you have enough for your placemats as well. So I would probably place my clouds like this on here. So that's going to be the white. So I'm just going to fold this one up here and just push this up here. Then we have our black and our gray. So for the black, we need your runner. Where is that? Runner 1. So that one's just going to be, and again, you want your wrong side up. So that means your label should be on the opposite side. And you're just going to place this on top like that. Then your medium gray is going to be runner 2 and 3, like this. So for this one here is actually not black, it's your dark gray that I put runner 1 on. Hope I didn't confuse anybody. So this is your dark gray up here for runner 1. Okay, then we have our greens. So for the Christmas trees, or the trees, we have 5 greens from 1 to 5, 1 being your darkest and 5 being your lightest. So my light one's down here. So on your green 1, which is your dark, you should have your runner 7, 12, and 17. And again, wrong side up. So something like that. Then your runner 4, or green 4, is going to be green 2, sorry. Again, wrong side up. And that one's going to have your runner 8, 13, and 18. So again, we're just going to place these on here. And then your green 3 is going to be 9, 14, and 19. So it's just a matter of finding how they're going to fit on here. And then we have your 4, which I've already started here. And then your last color, green 5, is your lightest. And again, wrong side up. So like that. So that's what it should look like for your runner. So you have your 5 greens. You have your dark gray and your light gray, and then you have your white. So you're going to place your fabrics on your pieces on your fabrics. And now what we're going to do is peel off the paper. So you don't want to peel off the one with the grid, because that's what you've traced on. We need that tracing to cut around. So you have to take the piece off that has no writing. And of course, the one that wants to come off is the one with the grid, so it gets a little bit tedious. But if you just take your piece and just fold it over and just kind of pinch it, it will release. So then you just peel it off like that. And you're just going to stick this onto your fabric. So like that. And just even finger sticking it on, like it'll stick on there. So you'll do that for put all your pieces on, finger press them down. And then if you want, you can press this with the iron at this point, with a dry iron, but just very quickly, just to set it. And then after that, so this one I have pressed already, you can see. I'm just going to, once I've pressed it, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut around my lines. So just like that. I'm just going to cut all these out. So I'm going to go ahead and fuse the rest of mine and cut them out, and then I'll be right back. Alright, I've got all my pieces cut out for my runner. So you can see here I've kind of organized my pieces in numerical order, because that's how they're going to go onto your runner. So we have runner 1, 2, 3, which is going to be your mountains. Then we have 4, 5, and 6 are your clouds, and then we have the 3 trees. So you'll notice that they go from 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this tree is farther in the back. This tree is going to appear slightly forward of this one with 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. And then your middle tree is going to be the one that's going to be at the top with 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. So we're gonna start building this on our background. I'm just going to move my trees away for the moment. And we'll pull out our background. So we have the first part that we're going to do is the mountains. So with this number 1 piece is going to be placing like this. So you're going to peel off the gridded piece of your paper now, and you're going to just place this where you think you want it. What you want to make sure here is that you're covering the seam that's connecting your 2 fabrics for your background together. So it should be kind of in the middle of that. So you're just going to finger press that down. You can take this off. So just like that. So that's our number 1. Our number 2 piece is going on the right side. So again, I'm just pulling off my gridded paper. You can take the labels off. And this one is going here. And again, there's no right or wrong to this. You just kind of place it where you think you want it. You're creating a scene. Your number 3 piece, however, needs to cover the rest of this seam, so you want to make sure that it's going to be on top of that. So you're going to want it somewhat like this. And that's how you just start laying out your pieces. So I'm just finger pressing these down. So this way, if I lay this out and I think, I want this one a little bit higher, I can just still peel this off and move it. Because once you put the iron on here, it's final. That's where it's staying. So you can play around with it for the moment. So this we can lay like this. I'm just going to put my clouds on here right now because they're independent of these pieces. So you're going to have your number 4 is the first cloud you're going to put on. So again, I'm just going to peel this off. And this one goes right across your runner. So again, whether you have this lower or higher, it doesn't really matter. It's whatever you want to do. So I'm just centering mine. And then number 5 is going on the left side. So like this. So you can put it lower or higher. Actually, I think I'm going to put this one on this side. And this one, so in our pattern we have it a little bit higher. You can put it down here if you want. It doesn't really matter. So we'll do it like that. So you can set up the clouds however you want. So I would stitch this down first before I go and put my trees on, because there's just so many pieces with the trees. So I'm just going to show you how to do this. There's a few little tips that we can do to make this project look just a little bit neater. One of them is when you have layers like this, you don't want to fuse everything until you've stitched that bottom one, so that you're stitching past the piece that you're putting on top. This way you're not starting right there where everybody can see your start and your stop. So you want to make sure that when you put this piece on, you're covering the tip a little bit here. So I'm not going to fuse that down right away, and I won't even fuse this one down because this stainless seam is pretty tacky, so it'll stay there while you're stitching it. So I would just pull this back, stitch this, then put this down, and then stitch this on top. And I'll do the same thing with this one. I will just peel this back, actually these two, just stitch down here, then put these back down, and then stitch around these top pieces. And to do that, I use an open-toed foot, which looks like this, or applique foot. And what I like to do is run the edge of my fabric that I'm appliquing right along the inside of my open-toed foot like that. So what I do is I'll move my needle right over so it's just right beside the right-hand side of my foot. So you're doing like 1/8 of an inch away from your piece that you're appliquing. So so it's just easier to follow your piece when you're using the arm of your open-toed foot as a guide around your piece. So you're just going to be running it along like that. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch that. And also when you're going to stitch with applique, you want to use a shorter stitch length. This way when you're going around curves and you're in points like this, it's just easier to maneuver around those. You don't want a long stitch length, so we use 1.8 as a stitch length for that. And again, we're going to be matching our threads. We're going to be using a white to sew down our clouds. We're going to use a black to sew down the big mountain in the back, and we're going to use a gray to sew the ones in the front. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. I have sewn down my mountains and my clouds. So now we're going to move on to our trees. So I'm just going to move this up. And we're going to set those up. So I brought my tree pieces back in again. So now we've placed 6 pieces on our runner. So now we want runner number 7 piece. So we're going to start with 7 and we're going to continue on to 21. And again, just as a reminder, on your pattern page, the runner instructions, there's a little diagram there for placement as a guideline. You'll notice on there that we have red lines. That just shows the overlapping of the pieces, so that just to give you an idea of what we're doing. And I'll be doing it here, right here as well. So number 7 is going to be our next piece. So we're going to grab that, peel that off. So this is the bottom of your tree. So this is going to be down here. So I'm just lining this up with the edge of my runner. Then I'll grab my 8. And this is going on top. So again, you want to make sure that you're going to be covering that line. So just like that. And runner number 9. And then we have runner 10. And then we have runner 11. And actually I'm going to move this one just a little bit differently here. More like that. And then this is the top of your tree, so it's going to go like that. So you're basically just building your trees in layers, and we're going from darker to lighter. And again, if you don't want to see as much of this one, you can just come down a little bit. So I can just peel that off and bring it back down. So it's just a matter of playing with your pieces and setting them up the way you want to set them up. So the next tree that we're going to build is going to be the one on the left hand side. So now we've got, this was piece 11, so we're moving on to 12. And we're going to set this one up like this. So this one, make it a little bit lower, I guess. And then you're going to put 13. And 14. So like that. And then we got 15. And 16 is the top of your second tree. And again, there's no right or wrong on how you do this. You're building your seam. So if you don't like the way it looks, just unstick and re-stick. Okay, so now our last tree is, we're starting with runners number 17. And this one's in the front of all of them. So we'll start down here. And 18. And this guy goes on top. And then 19. And 20. And then 21. So just like that. So now same thing, we're gonna stitch these down starting at the bottom of our trees. So again, I would just peel back to start to sew underneath and then just layer up. So once you kind of have an idea of what your tree, if you're happy with the shape of your tree, you can actually just take this whole one off. Just going to put it to the side here. And then you can work with these two trees first. So you're just going to stitch down your darkest piece and then bring down your second piece, stitch it down, bring down your next one, stitch it down. This way the last piece is going to be all the way around the piece. So you're going to go ahead and I'm going to go do that, and you're going to go do that, and I'll be right back. So I'm back with our table runner. So once you've have it done, you can go ahead and quilt it. You can see here that I've quilted mine already with a snowflake pattern. If you don't want to quilt it and bind it, you can also do envelope style and then just stitch around your appliques or whatever to hold it together. And basically that's it for this class, but you can join us for our placemats, which is coming right up.